to Reptile Barn. Today we are making a shipment to a really awesome breeder. We've been friends with this guy for a while now. Sending him quite a few snakes. He's got a big box here. Just gonna poke a couple of air holes here real quick. And the topic today that I want to talk about is cold weather shipping. As you can imagine, us being in Alaska, we gotta know about cold weather shipping. I know a lot of you guys do too. Today's topic on cold weather shipping is specifically when you're cold weather shipping but the recipient is not in a cold place. This is a tricky shipment. I have two heat packs here, a little one and a big one. The little one is a 20-hour heat pack. The big one is a 60-hour heat pack, okay? Now our recipient is in a place with highs in the low 80s. Our current highs are in the low 30s. And the main hubs in Memphis and Indianapolis, I'm not sure which hub this one's going to go through. They're both kind of in between. Indianapolis is a little colder than Memphis right now, but they're both kind of cold. So I do not want to send this shipment without heat packs because they will freeze. But I do not want to have too much heat in these shipments because then on the other end, with the recipient, they will overheat. Something to know about the heat packs. The 20-hour heat pack burns a little hotter than the typical 40-hour heat packs that you see used a lot in the reptile hobby. The 60-hour heat pack burns not quite as hot, if that makes sense. Now this is a very big box. So on my end here in Alaska where it's cold, I like that there's going to be two heat packs going, right? However, we started the 20-hour heat pack last night. So in theory, it should only have another, I don't know, 10, let's see, what time do we start it? Maybe another 10 to 15 hours of heat, somewhere in there, right? Because they don't actually just cut off at 20 hours. It'll taper out at the end. So the idea is at the beginning of the shipment, while it's still in Alaska, we want a lot of heat. Now heat packs do use some oxygen, but in a box this big, it's not a concern, and I've actually just poked, as you saw, two little air holes. So they will not run out of air, do not worry. So I've got a good layer of bedding down there. I'm actually going to start pulling snakes now, all right? So I got to label these real quick. All these bags. Okay, so I'm going to go grab a marker. So despite the silly names that I give my snakes, this breeder always keeps the same names if the snake was named whenever he buys them. So I told him he's free to change the names, but he's going to keep them. So I'm going to write down the names and the genetics and the genders real quick, although they're all female. Alright, so I'm going to pull snakes and I'm going to walk through why I did the heat packs the way I did them. We will get these off. I'll explain my box and everything. Sorry guys, I paused the camera and then I didn't turn it back on. They're all packed up. This guy asked that we spray with Prevenamite just preemptively, so we did. We don't have any mites, luckily, but it's just a good precaution. I think he's had a bad experience in the past, which is totally understandable. That's fine. So we sprayed, got him packed up, closed it up. Now we got to get him out to the car. It's a big box, it's heavy, and off to FedEx. But yeah, so the idea, as I was getting into in the room there, is that the snakes have to be warmed while they're in Alaska, and even somewhat while they're in Memphis and Indianapolis at this point in the year. But once they get to their destination that's hot, they need to not be warmed, right? So what I did was, I started the 20-hour heat pack early, last night in fact, so that theoretically in the middle of the night tonight, while it's sitting in Memphis, that 20-hour heat pack will run out of heat. it will no longer be heating them. And then we will only have the one heat pack putting out heat into that whole big box. So it'll be a little bit of heat comparatively to what it was when it had 2 heat packs, but it shouldn't be a problem when it gets delivered, because it's a really big box. I put some air holes right next to that heat pack that's going to keep going, so it'll be a little bit warm, but it'll be delivered early in the morning. It won't be the heat of the day yet, and again, it's not, you know, scorching hot there. It's just low 80s as highs. So that is how we are shipping this package. I like using those 60-hour heat packs when I can, because if a package were to ever get stuck and not delivered on time, which has happened before, where the Memphis hub just messes up. It's never the Indianapolis hub, it's always the Memphis hub that screws up. It doesn't happen a lot, but it has happened where a package gets stuck and does not make its connecting flight in Memphis to whatever the destination hub is. So in that situation, if I like having a 60-hour heat pack in, because it's not going to run out of heat before it is delivered. That would be bad, right? So I really do like those 60-hour heat packs. I know that the industry standard is the 40-hour heat packs. I've talked on the phone extensively with the Ship Your Reptiles people, and they're like, look, this is the standard. We're not gonna insure your package if you do not use our standards. And I am totally fine with that. They're a great company. They know everything there is to know about shipping reptiles. However, I can't go 6 months out of the year without shipping snakes. I also can't justify shipping them unsafely. So that's the compromise I've made. I used other types of heat packs. I understand the different temperatures that the different sizes of heat packs reach. And you know, I've never had a problem with this method, using the 20-hour heat packs or the 60-hour heat packs as needed. You got to be intuitive about it, you know. When we got our indigos up here, the breeder was in Arizona, and we're obviously in Alaska. He did not want to use heat packs. He was in Arizona. He would have roasted them. So he just waited until basically a monsoon, a rainstorm came through on his end, so that the temperatures cooled down somewhat. And this was months ago when it was still warm enough here. It wasn't the industry standard of 70 degrees, but it was warm enough that he felt that since it was a colubrid snake, the eastern indigos are colubrids, that they could handle a little bit of cold for, you know, the few hours while they were in Alaska. And he shipped them up. They were great, in perfect condition, not a single issue. So he just, you know, he used his head and nothing bad happened. On the opposite end of the spectrum, when we had the tree monitor shipped up to us, that was a crazy shipment. I've talked about this before, but that was a stretch even for me. The breeder was in Canada. His kind of go-between was in Southern California, and then we, as the destination, are in Alaska. And this is a species that can't tolerate any cold at all. So where he was at, this was back in the spring, early spring. So it was still chilly in Canada. It was already hot in Southern California, and it was still cold here in Alaska. So he used a cold pack and I think 2 heat packs. And the way he did it was, he started the cold pack early so that before it got to Alaska, it would run out of cold, basically. It would stop producing any cold. So he sent it with the heat packs going, but the cold pack was going right next to it so that while it was in California, it wouldn't get too hot. And then the guy in California took it. He started an extra heat pack. Took out, well, he didn't take out the cold pack, it just had ran out of cold, and he sent it on to us. So it was perfect. It arrived to us. It hadn't gotten too cold in Canada because he had 2 heat packs running. It hadn't gotten too hot in California because he had a cold pack right next to it. And then it didn't get too cold again here because the cold pack ran out. I know that's a lot, it's jumbled. I hope you followed that. My point is just that when first starting out, it probably is wise to just follow the industry standard. And if Ship Your Reptiles or Reptiles Express or Reptiles to You says don't ship, just maybe don't ship. However, if you know what you're doing, you can ship safely. Not everyone will go on record and say things like this, but we have lost 1 snake ever in shipment, and it was awful. And what happened was, we had the correct heat packs. It wasn't, the temperatures weren't actually super extreme. We weren't really concerned about this shipment. And then when we shipped, a storm blew up in Memphis. And so the plane pulled into Memphis from Anchorage, and it snowed there. And Memphis isn't used to snow. It just, the temperatures plummeted. It still would have been okay. It was packed very well. It was in a good insulated box, good heat pack running. But the planes would not leave Memphis for 2 more days. So this snake was in transit for 3 days. Obviously, the 40-hour heat pack that we used ran out of heat entirely, and those cold temperatures were just too much, and before it reached its destination, the snake died. It perished, and it was awful. I felt so bad for that customer having to open up a box with a dead snake in it. I mean, how terrible would that be? First snake ever, I think it was, for this customer. I was just crushed. I felt so bad. We did everything we could to make it right. We ended up getting her a replacement snake, but you know, still, that was terrible. So, why do I bring this up? I believe if I had used a 60-hour heat pack, that snake would have been fine. Wouldn't have run out of heat, right? So, we didn't, because at the time that we shipped it, I don't know. Maybe something still could have gone wrong, but these snakes are tough, you know? The success rate with shipping snakes is 99.9% successful. It's so rare that something goes wrong that we almost don't even bring it up. But I know that some people use too many heat packs and they overheat their snakes and die. That's the most common way that snakes don't make it in a shipment. But that was the only time we've ever lost a snake, and it was terrible. So I guess just use your head. I'm rambling here because I'm trying to just get my point across that I would never knowingly endanger my snakes, ever. If I think it's not safe, I don't ship. And there's been times where I don't ship. But I also don't think that it's necessary to 100% of the time rigidly stick to the shipping standards. I know almost no breeders who refuse to ship below 38 degrees or just the different things that Ship Your Reptiles lists on their website of don't ship here or use this heat pack here. Sometimes there have been breeders that don't want to ship to me because they see, oh, you're in Alaska, I can't ship to you. But you know, we have FedEx just like everybody else. I know we're farther away and we're colder than most places, but I've talked to breeders in Minnesota who have worse problems than we do because their winters are just colder. I'm not up in the middle of Alaska where it's, you know, brutally cold all winter. I don't know. I've talked to breeders in the Dakotas. It gets so cold there. So I'm almost to FedEx. I'm sure that Liz is going to trim up this long ramble that I've just gone on. So I don't know which parts of it you'll all hear, but I just believe strongly that the first priority in shipping a snake should be that the snake stays safe, but the second priority should be to use your head so that you can ship most of the time. Honestly, in my experience, the things to watch out for, other than the real extremes in temperature like I was just talking about, but the things to really watch out for are storms, because you don't want your planes to get delayed. That has been worse for us than the cold or the hot, within reason, of course. Hopefully tomorrow you guys will see what got shipped off. I don't know if I told you, it's 4 normal females, nice proven breeder normals, but no morphs or anything, and then our last 2, I'm sad about this, are spider 100% het desert ghost females. I waited and waited and waited to sell these snakes because even though we had raised up visual desert ghost females to replace them with, these were part of my original group of snakes that I bought when we first got into breeding 4 or 5 years ago, and it kills me to sell them, but we know this guy really well now. We've talked to him a ton. He's an awesome guy. I hope you all will follow his channel, which I will, actually I guess I could shout it out right now since you guys won't watch this until after he's already done his video. It's DCR Reptiles, Donny at DCR Reptiles. He's an awesome guy, great YouTube channel. Please check him out. We'll put all his stuff in the description down here. I say down here, down in the description. I'm gonna go drop these snakes off and head to work. And until next time, we're the Reptile.